Do eggs raise cholesterol levels in the body and increase heart attacks and strokes? Eggs have so many different labels. How do I know which one to choose? I've heard eggs can improve brain health. Is that true? Should I eat the yolk or should I remove it? I've heard it has a ton of cholesterol and it's bad for me. How do I know what to believe? Welcome to the Foundational Health Podcast, where we provide education and inspiration to help guide you on your journey to look better, feel better, and most importantly, heal better. Hello, and welcome to the Foundational Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Kevin Schultz, and today we are going to talk about the incredible edible egg. That's right, an entire podcast dedicated to eggs. Why would I do an entire podcast on eggs? Very simple. Eggs, when done right, which we'll talk about later, are considered by many health experts to be nature's perfect food. So be sure to stick around to the end where I take the confusion out of reading store-bought egg labels. I promise you will see when we talk about labels why it is so incredibly important. Let's look at some of the reasons why the egg is considered by many to be nature's perfect food. First of all, eggs contain all 9 essential amino acids, making them a perfect complete protein and a very easily digestible protein. So that's nothing unique with the 9 essential amino acids. All complete proteins contain those. But what is unique is that eggs, first of all, again, are very highly digestible, more so than other proteins. And then this is a really, really big one. Eggs have the highest muscle utilization rate. And this is very, very seldom talked about. We just hear about proteins being absorbable and they're a complete protein, but muscle utilization rate is not talked about nearly enough. So here's what that looks like. If we go way down to the worst, it's things like whey proteins, for example, and pea proteins, and a lot of the powdered proteins, they have approximately a 17% muscle utilization rate. So that means 17% of that complete protein gets used for muscle. The other 83% is actually converted into simple sugars, which is why for so many people, whey proteins especially can cause bloating and digestive issues and other problems. But then if you look at like salmon, red meats, chickens, those are all around a 32% muscle utilization rate. So about double that of what whey protein is. And then if you look at eggs, 51%. So nothing else compares to the egg. 51% of that protein goes to muscle utilization rate. So that is a really big deal and often not talked about. And in fact, in the research I was doing for this podcast and looking at multiple studies, multiple articles from very good, trusted health websites, I didn't find that one single time. So that information, I think, it's fairly new. And again, it is just not talked about enough. But in my opinion, it is one of the most important. Another reason it's considered to be nature's perfect food. Studies show that eggs support brain function by improving memory and decreasing dementia. Really big deal also. 2/3 of Americans now are considered to have cognitive decline by the time they hit the age of 70. So that's a really big deal. 2 out of 3 Americans cognitive decline by the age of 70. Eggs contain something called choline, and eggs are actually considered to be one of, if not the best source of choline. Actually, beef liver from most people is considered to be the best source, but if you're somebody that is probably not eating beef liver on a regular basis, then eggs are a fantastic, and again, sometimes considered to be the number one most fantastic source of choline. And choline is essential for brain health and memory. One particular study followed more than 1,000 people with the average age of 81 for 7 years. And researchers found that those who ate not much, 2 or more eggs per week had half the risk of developing Alzheimer's compared to those who ate fewer or no eggs at all. Studies also show eggs improve eyesight because they contain nutrients like lutein, something called zeaxanthin, and something also called carotenoids. So you don't have to remember those, but those are nutrients that are incredibly important for eyesight and eyesight at any age, but especially as we age. So all of those nutrients not only improve eyesight, but they also protect against something called oxidative damage or oxidative stress. Oxidative damage, oxidative stress, it almost literally means your body is rusting on the inside. So when you hear the term oxidative stress, oxidative damage, that is not a good thing. Eating eggs, especially the right eggs with choline, along with all of those other nutrients that are great for eyesight, will help to reduce and protect against your body rusting from the inside. So pretty big deal. A 2006 study showed that older adults with an average age of 79 who ate only one egg daily, so one egg, not a huge amount, they significantly increased their lutein levels as well as their zeaxanthin levels without, and this is a big deal because this is one of the biggest concerns, one of the questions I mentioned in the beginning, they did that without elevating total or LDL cholesterol levels at all in any of the participants. And if you need a little bit more convincing, a 2020 study looked at 3,654 people for a 15-year period of time and showed that those who ate 2 to 4 eggs per week reduced their risk of age-related macular degeneration by 54%. And then if they ate more eggs, 5 to 6 eggs per week, for that group, they reduced macular degeneration as they aged by 65%. Pretty incredible. Studies also show eggs improve your immune system health. They lower your blood pressure. They improve overall cellular health as well because of all the amazing nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, the B vitamins in there, fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E. So many great things. Few fun facts. I found these to be fun facts. Did you know, and I had no idea, and I have chickens at home, and I grew up with chickens of all different breeds and all different colors of eggs. But an egg shell color depends on the hen's breed. That part I knew. But this is fascinating to me. The eggshell color matches the color of the hen's earlobes 100% of the time. So now I want to get a bunch of chickens with a bunch of different eggs so I can verify this. But this is what I read and I believe to be true. Did you also know an eggshell has more than 7,000 pores in it, and those pores allow air and moisture to pass through the membrane, to pass through the shell, to pass through the membrane. And the reason that they're in there is because when that egg is allowed to be fertilized and then grow into a chicken, it actually helps that chick develop properly. The membrane, which if you don't know what a membrane is, it's right inside the shell. It's the part that you kind of feel that little flimsy membrane when you're peeling an egg or crack an egg. That membrane stops pathogen. So this is also an important fact to know. In a store-bought egg, the reason that they need to be refrigerated is because when those eggs are cleaned at high temperatures often and with chemicals, it literally destroys that membrane, and then it allows pathogens to cross through that barrier, through those tiny pores and into the egg. So it needs to be refrigerated as opposed to farm fresh eggs like our chicken, our duck, our goose eggs at home. We can leave those sitting right on the shelf, room temperature, for several weeks at a time, and they are perfectly fine because they still have that membrane intact. A bonus tip, and to be honest, we haven't tried this yet, so we are definitely going to because this is problematic. You can add white vinegar or apple cider vinegar to your water before boiling your eggs, before making hard-boiled eggs, and apparently this makes them easier to peel because the acidity of the vinegar dissolves some of the calcium inside of the shell. So that from what I read, is like a guarantee that it makes it easier. And then a tip that I already did know that many of you maybe don't know is older eggs. So meaning that, they're a couple weeks old. They have a lower pH level, and then because of that lower pH level, basically the membrane becomes less sticky to the shell, also making them considerably easier to peel. Another did you know? Eating eggs with certain foods actually helps the body absorb even more of the amazing nutrients we talked about. So a few examples of this: avocados. And if you've never tried avocados with eggs, they are amazing. They pair incredibly well together. And when you eat avocados with eggs, it increases the absorption rate of fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin E, vitamin D, and vitamin A from the egg. When you eat eggs with kale and spinach, it actually increases the absorption rate of vitamin K from the kale and spinach, and also increases the absorption rate of the vitamin K from the egg. When you eat tomatoes with eggs, it increases the lycopene absorption rate. And lycopene is just in the tomato, but when you eat eggs with tomatoes, the absorption rate of lycopene goes up. So 3 really good tips to actually improve your absorption rates of some incredible nutrients. Nutridyne is my number one choice for the vast majority of my family supplements. I'm a huge fan of nearly everyone taking what I call the foundational 4 supplements: a multivitamin, a spore-based probiotic, omega-3 fish oil, and vitamin D3 with K2. The large majority of people are deficient in many of these nutrients, and they are the building blocks to gut health, immune system strength, brain health, heart health, and every other aspect of your health. Don't fall into the trap of chasing symptoms with supplements, and instead start to rebuild your health with the foundational 4. We partnered with Nutridyne so that you can save 15% on every order, and not just with the foundational 4, but all of your other supplements as well. Go to foundationalhealth365.com. Click on Shop Brands and then Nutridyne, set up your account, and you're all set to automatically get 15% off all orders. Now let's get back to the Foundational Health Podcast. One of the questions that I get all of the time, and unfortunately, in fact, just last week, I had somebody that told me that their nutritionist told them to always remove the yolk. I'm going to go through some stuff that hopefully this won't even be a question you ever have to ask again. It is some of the worst advice you could ever get. Do not remove the yolk. So this is based on very old, very bad science that eggs raise cholesterol levels significantly in the body. And that belief was because the eggs contain cholesterol. Now, what we now know is for the majority of people, that doesn't hold true in any way, shape, or form. There are some people, when you look at genetics, so for instance, I've done genetic testing and I know that I am what is called a hyper responder to cholesterol. So a hyper responder cholesterol means that when I eat dietary cholesterol, like cholesterol in eggs, it does have the ability to slightly raise my blood cholesterol levels, but not to a significant, not to a dangerous degree. So you do not want to remove the yolk, even if you're a hyper responder. If anything, just eat a few less eggs if you're concerned with that, but don't remove the yolk. Most of the egg's nutrients are found in the yolk. The egg yolk contains high amounts of vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K. It also contains B vitamins 1, 2, 5, 6, 9, and 12, all incredibly important. It contains calcium, it contains iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, zinc, and 40% of the protein is found in the yolk, and 100% of the choline. So that choline that we just got done talking about that helps your brain, helps your memory, well, you can throw all of that out the window if you throw the yolk out. So 100% of the choline is found in the yolk, and so are a lot of the nutrients that we talked about for eye health as well. So if you remove the yolk, you also remove the necessary fat and the nutrients that are needed for your body to absorb those eye nutrients. Meaning that you have the lutein and zeaxanthin that is in the egg white, but you can't even absorb it if you remove the yolk. The whole egg works together. It's just another perfect example of God's perfect design that egg works together for nutrient absorption. You can't remove one part and expect the same results. So they did a study that was following men specifically who removed the yolks versus another group that kept the yolks in. And this was a group of men that was doing specific strength training. And then what that study showed is the group who ate the entire egg had higher levels of testosterone, they had better muscle strength, and they had a significant reduction in body fat compared to the group that removed the yolk. And the only thing they did differently with the rest of their diet and their workout, the only thing that they did was the egg yolk staying in, the egg yolk being removed. So pretty huge. So I repeat, do not remove the egg yolk. And if you're seeing a doctor, seeing a nutritionist, a personal trainer, this is often where it comes from. I find that a personal trainer will tell people for building muscle, just eat a bunch of egg whites. It's just really bad, old, outdated advice. As promised, we're going to talk about egg labels. This is so incredibly important, and you're going to see why as we get into this. So if you don't already know this, when you go to the grocery store, there's all kinds of egg labels. We're going to start with really the worst of the worst, and then in the middle, it's kind of a mix, and then we'll end with the best option. So I'll tie it all together at the end. Conventional eggs, here's what that means. So if you just go to the store and it doesn't say organic, it doesn't say cage-free, it doesn't say free range, it doesn't say pasture-raised, it's just a conventional USDA egg. Sometimes they make those sound better because they'll say vegetarian-fed eggs, which is really silly because they're all vegetarian-fed unless they are farm-raised and pasture-raised. But what it means for this conventional egg is that these birds are raised in cages, bad enough, but not just in cages. They're in such small, cramped cages that they are on purpose not allowed to spread their wings at all because they're shoved into these cages. They never at any point in their entire life are able to move, so they cannot move around. The cages are so short that they're designed to not allow them to stand. And if that doesn't sound horrible enough, they get electric shock treatments that are supposed to stimulate egg production. But that electric shock treatment, of course, creates a highly stressed out bird, as you can imagine, along with every other thing, which makes an unhealthier product, the egg. It also has been known to lead to bone fractures in the chicken, and it leads to them pecking each other. And so guess what the answer to that is? They're pecking each other too much, so let's cut off their beaks. So that's what they do. They actually cut off their beaks to prevent injuries from crowding them into these tight cages. They also have zero outdoor access, as you can imagine. They're not picking up these cages and bringing them outside because they never leave the cage in their entire life. And then they have zero natural light as well. They're fed GMO grain-fed diets with additives like antibiotics and growth hormones. So this is what you're getting if you're seeking out conventional. If that doesn't make you, it just makes me a little sick to my stomach just talking about it, not only from the bird standpoint, but from the product of the egg as well, or the chicken, and the chicken meat, that is. That's what you're getting when you're going to a traditional restaurant. So if you're going and getting the Egg McMuffin at McDonald's, I promise you they're not seeking out anything good that we're going to talk about. That is what they are serving 100% of the time. Now, some other restaurants certainly might go into these other categories that we'll talk about. So the next category is cage-free. So here's what that means. Cage-free means they're not in a cage, so they're able to roam freely, but not outdoors. They're roaming freely indoors. So this is a lot of the large chicken barns that you'll see. But they have an unlimited food and water supply during their laying cycle only. Otherwise, that is restricted for them. They do have a space for perching and nesting and some other natural behaviors, but they're not going outside at any point ever. Then you have free range. Free range means that they also can roam freely indoors, And then they have unlimited food and water access all the time. They also have access to outdoor space during their laying cycle only. And this is very misleading because what happens is they will label them again as free range. Sounds really good, but they're free ranging indoors. Yes, they have access to the outdoor space during their laying cycle, but that access means it's really restricted. Like they can open the door for 1 hour out of a 24 period of time to a small cement slab, and that qualifies for the USDA to allow them to label it as free range. So very misleading, still not a healthy product in any way, shape, or form. So in my opinion, you should be avoiding the cage-free, avoiding the free range, as well as avoiding especially the conventional. And then we move into organic. So organic is definitely better. So with organic, first of all, they're fed 100% organic feed. They then have outdoor access year round. So that's a big deal. They have at least access year round, so they're not scared by the light as much. A lot of these chicken barns, they open the door and they see natural light and the chickens actually run from it and they never actually go outside. So at least they have more access to it. They're able to move freely indoors without cages. They can do more natural behaviors like perches and then nesting boxes as well. But it's still by no means a great product. It is a better product, but it doesn't mean when they have outdoor access, again, it's usually a cement slab. So they're not going outside to actually eat grass and eat worms and eat bugs and do all the natural things that chickens are supposed to do. That brings us to pasture raised. So pasture raised is hens that have outdoor space, but they also have outdoor space with access to grass and other vegetation. So more natural habitats. And then the ideal really is that you're getting a local farm that has pasture raised and organic feed. So you can have a combination of many of these things. So you might see in the store cage free and organic. It's a definite move in the right direction. But even when you're buying an egg at the store that says pasture raised, yes, it is absolutely better, but there are so many tricky parts and ways around how they can make it great. So they can be on a cement slab and just have a little bit of access to some grass and vegetation for part of the day. It's nothing like a local farm that's doing things right. So ideal is you are seeking out a local farm that is pasture raising, meaning these chickens have access outside and they're eating what a chicken's supposed to eat. They're exercising, they're getting sunlight, they're getting fresh air, and ideally they're being fed organic grains. So also keep in mind that just because it's a local farm, that doesn't mean that they're automatically doing all of those things. So some local farms are still they're all raised in chicken barns. Even when it's organic, they can be raised in a chicken barn locally, and then they sell it as a local farm fresh egg, but it's still not a great product. So you have to know your farmer. You have to seek something out. That is the ideal situation for sure. So hopefully you understand after going through all of that information why it is, in my opinion, important to do an entire podcast on the incredible edible egg. Inspirational and educational takeaways for today. Number one, success equals simple habits performed daily over time. So that is an assignment, which means find a local egg supplier that is bare minimum pasture raising, like we just talked about, pasture raising their chickens, feeding organic feed. If you can find that, huge bonus. And then all of the benefits that we talked about today are going to be magnified tremendously, even better than what the studies show, because those studies are not done on the perfect egg the way God intended. Number two, never leave home without your cooler, and make things like hard-boiled eggs and cold hamburgers your new protein bars. Number three, you're a leader. Lead by example and eat your eggs, and find a way for your kids to eat your eggs. So we have a daughter that doesn't want to eat eggs. She doesn't have an allergy to them, but Ava does not like eggs. but she's okay with eating eggs. She just doesn't like the taste of them. So what we do is we put eggs in smoothies. Sarah makes healthy zucchini muffins and beet muffins and all of these other healthy actual baked goods made with honey, and she adds a bunch of eggs to that. So they're protein muffins and protein cookies. So that's a great way, and there's many other ways that you can actually get eggs in, even if you don't necessarily love eggs. You can still get the benefits of enjoying them on a regular basis. If you enjoyed today's podcast and found it beneficial, I want you to think about who needs to hear this message. Be a leader for them. Drop them a text and tell them to check out the Foundational Health Podcast with Dr. Kevin Schultz on the incredible edible egg. Until next time, make health your hobby. Thank you for listening to the Foundational Health Podcast. As always, if you would like to learn more about making health your hobby, visit our website at foundationalhealth365.com and follow me on Facebook at Kevin Schultz DC Foundational Health.